All right, we're on Chaf Hey Amud Aleph at the top. We're talking about Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa and how he lived in abject poverty, and yet his zechuyos were able to sustain the entire world. And the Gemara had told us a story that Mrs. Chanina ben Dosa was also, she was part of this abject poverty, and she would put something smoky in the oven, even though she had nothing to bake, so that she wouldn't be embarrassed. So the Gemara says that one time she had a neighbor who wasn't a nice lady. She was a snoopy, nosy lady. And she said, I know that they have nothing to make in their house. What is there smoke coming out? So she knocks on the door, and Mrs. Bendosa runs to another room, pretending not to be home. This lady goes in, and miraculously, HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes a miracle, and she opens up the oven and sees that it's filled with bread baking, and that the trough is filled with dough. This was a nace. So the Gemara says, Amrle, Planis, the first wide line, Palnisa, Palnisa, Aisi Masa de Kacharech Lachmech. So she yells out, she says, Mrs. Dosa, you better bring a shovel to remove the bread off the side of the oven, it's burning. Samralaf, Analahachi Aili. So she yells back and she says, I was just going to the other room to get the shovel. Tana Afi Lahavi Marda Nichnasa Mipnei Milumedes Benisim Haisa. The Brisa gives a slightly different version of the story, that she actually did not wait for the neighbor to barge in, but she had actually gone to the other room, even though there was no bread baking at the time, because she was used to miracles happening. And she knew that if she did her hishtadlus to go get the baking shovel, then eventually Hashem would put miraculous bread in the oven. Amrulei Devi, so at Emas Nezel Vinitztar Kulehai. So finally his wife had enough. She said to her husband, how much longer must we endure this kind of life? Amar Allah, my navid. So he said to her, what do you want us, what should we do? She said, well listen, you're Chanina ben Dosa. Davin and Hashem will give. So Ba Rachami Yatsasakim in Pisas Yad V'Yahovi Lechad Kara de Pitora de Dahava. So he davens, and all of a sudden a hand comes down from heaven and gives him the golden leg of a table. And as we'll see, this is from Shamayim. This is Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa's Chelak in Shamayim. So there's a problem with the Girsaos here, but it's Chazia bechelma Asidi tzadiki da achli apetora de dahava de islay tzlaskari the ihu achla apetora de trekari. He sees a dream, and in that dream, all other tzadikim in the Olam HaEmes, in Gan Eden or Olam Haba, are going to be eating on a table of 3 legs, which is the minimum number of legs you need in order for a table to stand. And he's going to be only having a table of 2 legs because he's getting that 3rd leg in this world. So Amar La Nichalach de Mechel Achli Kuli Alma Petora de Mishlam Va'anana Petora de Mechser. So he says to his wife, are you going to be happy if everyone else in the Olam HaEmes is going to be eating on a regular normative table of 3 legs, and we're going to have a table that's non-functional? Which, by the way, first of all, you can go home and tell your wife, I got good news for you, honey. We're going to be in the Olam HaEmes together, because this is the story. We're going to be eating on the table together. That's the way that he phrased the thing. So, Amrulei Umay Navid. That could be good news or bad news, depending upon how your marriage is. So, Amrulei Umay Navid. So he says to her, well, what should we do? That's what she says. Well, what are we supposed to do? They gave us the leg already. So, Be'i Rachami Denishkalinu Minach. She said, ask Hashem to take the leg back. Boy Rachami V'Shakluhu. And that's exactly what happened. He davened, and the hand came back, and they took back the leg. Tana Gadol Hayanes Achron Yosem in Harishon de Gemiri Denehav Yahavi Mishkalo Shakli. The Brisa tells us that the second miracle was even greater than the first, because our tradition is that heaven gives, heaven doesn't take. The fact that heaven took from Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa was a special, exceptional nace. Chad Beishimshe Chazi Librati Dahavasatziva. One Friday evening in the twilight hour, he sees that his daughter is quite sad. Amr labiti lamayat sivas. Why are you sad? Amr lei kli shel chaymetz nischalef li bekli shel shemen v'hidlakti mimenu or l'shabbos. She says, I accidentally got mixed up between the vinegar and the oil, and I put a wick in the vinegar and I lit it for Neiro Shabbos. So I realize now that my Neiro Shabbos are going to extinguish momentarily. Amr labiti ma'ichbas lach misha amr l'shemen v'yidlok hu yamr l'chaymetz v'yidlok. So I said, my daughter, what are you worried about? Whoever said that oil can light, will also command vinegar to light and to combust. So Tana hayudolek v'holech kol hayom kulo ad sheheviu mimenu or lahavdala. And the Brisa tells us that so it was. The miracle was that not only did this candle continue to combust, but it continued to burn through Shabbos until they were able to use the flame for Havdalah, which is quite remarkable, quite remarkable when you think about it. And it speaks to Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa's level of bitachon, that he had such bitachon in Hashem that the laws of nature were completely meaningless to him, and therefore Hashem suspended the laws of nature. Now, don't try this at home, obviously. You have to be at a certain madrega in order to be zoche to this.
What was his wife complaining about, really, if the nisim were abundant in her life?
That's a great question. Maybe she didn't want to be somech al hanes. Maybe she saw that these nisim were actually detracting from their quality of life, not only in this world, but in the next world as well. Maybe she felt that, we should live in this world. We should live in Olam Hazeh. That's what our destiny is, what we're supposed to do. That could have been her complaint.
But then she sends back the table.
She said, I don't want to take away our chelak in Olam Haba. If Hashem would have sent us parnasa al pi derech hateva and you would have gotten a job, I would have been happy, right? But I don't want to come from Shemaim and take away our chelak in Olam Haba. Okay, Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa havulei hanach easy. So Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa had goats in his possession. Amrulei kamafsidan izach. And people told him, your goats are causing damage to the neighbor's property. Amar, he couldn't believe it. He was of the opinion that if I have such Zechus, there's no way that my property could cause others damage. He says, I hereby declare, if my goats are causing damage, they should be eaten by bears. And if they're not causing damage, then tonight when they come back from the field, let each one be bearing a dead bear in its horns. So, and that's what happened. That night, each goat came back with a bear in its horns. Now, so he had a neighbor, a woman who had just built a home. And in those days, you had to be careful about the contractors that you hired. Not much has changed, right? But the problem was that she hired someone to build a house, and the central beam that was supporting the entire ceiling, the entire roof, was actually a beam that was too short, so that it was not being supported by the walls of the structure. So all it would take would be one rain, and that would be it. The whole house would collapse. So Asya Lakame, Amrlei Banisi Besi, Velo Kamatu Kishoroi. She comes to Rabbi Chanina and says, I have such a problem. I built my house, and the central beam is not extending over the walls. Amar la mashmech, Amar le Iko. He says to her, what's your name? She says, my name is Iko. Amar Iko nimtu kishurai. He said, Iko, let your beams extend, let your beams elongate. Tana higiu ad shiyatsu amalakan va'amalakan v'yesh ormim snifim aso. So the Brisa says that miraculously the beam elongated so that it extended one amma protruding on either side of the house. Not only did it cover the wall, not only did it clear the wall, it went an amma beyond the wall of each side. And some say that the miracle was that miraculously other pieces of wood attached themselves to the beam so that the beam held together, even though normally a beam has to be of one solid piece of wood. Miraculously it was held together, and it seems like these other pieces attached themselves miraculously to the beam. Tanya Plima Omer Ani Reisi Oso Habayis Vahoyu Karosav Yotzas Amalakan Va'amalakan Va'amruli Bayazeh Shekiru Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa B'Tfilaso. I saw that house, and I saw that the beam protruded one amma on either side, and they told me that this is the house that Rabbi Chanina built with his prayers. Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa Mehechan Havalu Isi. Let's go back to that original story about the goats. How was it possible for Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa to actually own goats?
They have bears in Babylon.
This is in Eretz Yisrael. So the truth is there used to be lions in Israel.
The lions are not bears.
Lions, tigers, and bears.
There go by.
Yeah, so there used to be a lot of wild animals that no longer exist. That's the zoology changes over time. So the Gemara now says, Vaha ani havi. First of all, he was a poor man. So where does he? A poor man doesn't have goats, doesn't have livestock. He didn't even have bread. So how does he have goats? Va'od amru chachamim ein megadlim behema daka be'eretz Yisrael. And we have another problem that you're not allowed to raise goats in Eretz Yisrael specifically because of the reason that they're going to damage the agriculture. And the agriculture is so precious in Eretz Yisrael that you're not allowed to let small animals graze. So Amar Rav Pinchas Maisa va'aver Adam Echad al Pesach Beiso v'niach sham tarnagolin u'mitza'as an ishtal shel Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa. Here's the story. What really happened was he was completely destitute, but a person was once traveling past his house, and he left chickens there. By accident, it sounds like he left chickens there and lost them. And Rabbi Chanina, Mrs. Chanina ben Dosa, finds the chickens. V'amar la al tochlim bi BAYT seim. So he told his wife, listen, it's not our property. We don't have a right to keep it. We have to wait and hold it for the owner. He said, don't even eat the eggs. So the thing is that v'hirbu beitzim v'tarnagolim v'yimitzarim osam. But so the chickens kept laying eggs, and they didn't eat the eggs, so the eggs matured and hatched until other chickens grew up. And so they had a whole flock, or what do you call it, a whole cacophony of chickens, and they couldn't handle it anymore. So umachron v'kana b'demeim izim. So Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa says, I'll make life easier. I'll sell a whole bunch of chickens and buy just a couple of goats, and that'll make life easier. Now this doesn't really answer the question. It answers the question where he got goats from if he was a poor man. But it doesn't answer the question of what right do you have to raise goats in Eretz Yisrael if you're not allowed to. He must have gotten the goats from Jordan or Syria somewhere. But what right did he have to bring them into Eretz Yisrael? So I don't have a clear answer to this question, but I will tell you that it's very possible that Rabbi Chanina had confidence, just like the story illustrated, that he had confidence that it's temporarily okay for me to have these goats, and my Zechus will make sure that these animals never do damage. It could be that that's the way that the Gemara is understanding it. Anyway, Pam echas aver oso adam sha'avdu mimenu atar negolim. So later on sometime, this man comes by who had lost the chickens. V'amar lechavero bekani nachli hatar negolin shali. And he tells his friend that he's traveling with, this is the exact spot where I left my chickens. And I don't know where they are. So Shama Rabbi Chanina, Amar lo yesh lo lacha bahen siman. So Rabbi Chanina rushes out after he hears this guy speaking, and he says, can you give me a siman, a sign, to identify that they were your chickens? Amar lo hein, nasan lo siman, venata lesa'izin. Vehein hein izi da'aisu dovi b'karanayu. So the guy said, yes, I do have a siman. And they gave a siman, and Rabbi Chanina gave him the goats, and these are the goats that Rabbi Chanina said would bring back bears on their horns. Yeah, well, I think it's more than just the Chad Gadya story, but I think what it's saying is that not only did Rabbi Chanina's chus protect the goats from doing any damage, but they actually protected the town. In other words, that's what it is. These bears are normally a menace to the city. So he proved that through his chus, my goats will actually protect the city instead of doing damage to the city. Rabbi Lazar ben Pedas dechika le milsa tuva, avad milsa v'lohava le midi lemita. So Rabbi Lazar ben Pedas, also a great tzaddik, also very poor. One day he has to let blood for medicinal purposes, and normally you have to eat something after you let blood. If anyone's donated blood, you know what we're talking about. There was nothing for him to eat. So shakal buradetuma v'shadja bepume. Chalash libe v'nim. So what happened was the only thing he could find was like the core of a garlic, or the bulb of a garlic, it sounds like. He sticks it in his mouth to get some kind of nutrition or taste, but it was so sharp and so pungent, and he was so weak that he lapses into a coma. It affects his heart, he lapses into a coma. Azul Rabbana l'shiyulei bey, the rabbis went to visit him, they saw he was sick. Chazyu de kabachi v'chayach v'nafach tzusisa denura me'apuse. And they noticed that while he's in his comatose state, he's crying, then he's smiling, and then a flash of light flashes off his forehead. And then finally he wakes up. Ki itar amrulei maitam kabachis v'chaychis. So they said to him, why were you crying and then smiling? Amr lahu dahavayasivimi hakadosh baruch hu. I was sitting with Hashem in my comatose state. My Neshama was sitting with Hashem. Va'amrilei ad masai yitzdair b'hayalm. And I said to him, Ribono shel olam, how much longer do I have to be in this painful state in this world? He had such a view of this life that he said, well, what's the point? Let me just die already. I'll be in the Olam HaEmes. I'll be able to learn and do everything I want to do. Va'amar li Elazar b'ni nichalach da'avche la'alma mereisha efsher demisyaldas b'shaita demizoni. So Hashem said back to me, Elazar, my son, if you like, I can overturn the entire world. In other words, I'll wipe out the world, I'll start all over again, and your neshama will come back into the world, and perhaps when it comes back into the world this time, you'll have food, you'll have provisions. So Amri lekame kulei hai ve'efsher, he said, you mean it's only a roll of the dice? You mean if you start all over again, there's no guarantee that I'll come back any better? He says, what's the point? So Amri lei dechaye tfeo dechayana. Then I said to Hashem, tell me, Ribbona Shalom, have I lived in the majority of my life, or am I yet to live the majority of my life? Amar lei dechayes. So Hashem said to me, you've already lived the majority of your life. So Amri lekame imkein lo ba'ina. He says, if that's the case, I'm not really interested in living any further. Now, it could mean quality of life, it could mean quantity of life. It's not clear from the Gemara. But basically, Rabbi Elazar is saying, it's not such a pleasant experience here, so I'm ready to go. So Amar li, Bahai Agra, da Amart lo ba'ina, Yahivna lach la'alma da'asi, t'leisari naharvasa demashcha parsimon, dekayan kaft kevparas v'diglas, deba'an gusbahu. So Hashem said to me that as a reward for your saying that you were willing to forego my starting all over again, and you said, let destiny run the way it's supposed to run. And it's okay, Hashem, I don't want you to start the world all over again just for my sake. I will give you 13 rivers of persimmon oil that are clear like the Euphrates and Tigris rivers, and you'll be able to anoint yourself and have tremendous pleasure in the next world. Now, what this means is a bizarre mystery. It, of course, is something very deep, and we have to analyze it, but we don't have time. So, Amri lekame hai v'sulo. So I said to Hashem, that's all you're willing to give me? Just 13 rivers of persimmon oil? What else is there? So Amar li ulechavrach ma yehivna. So Hashem said to me, but if I give you more, what am I going to have for your friends? So Amri lei va'ana migavra deles lei bo'ina. I said, it's back to the Ribbona Shalom. Am I asking to take from people who don't already have? So what is it to them if you give me some more? So machyan ba'askut la'apotoi. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu then took his finger and snapped it on my forehead, and that was why the spark flew off from my forehead. Of course, Hashem has no finger, but it was like a playful knock on the head, on the forehead. So Va'amar li Elazar bari giri bach giri, and Hashem said to me, Elazar, my son, my arrows go to you, and it was a playful comment of, like two friends will push each other as a sign of friendship. And this is what Hashem was doing to Elazar ben Pedas. So this was the reason why first he's crying and then he's smiling, because he hears of the reward and he's starting joking around, he's kibitzing with the Ribbona Shalom. So what this story means and how we make sense of it, we'll leave for the Meforshim. Rabbi Chama bar Chanina gazer Taanis v'lo asa mitra. Another story, Rabbi Chama bar Chanina decreed a fast and it still didn't rain. Amru lei v'ha Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi gazer Taanis v'asi mitra. So the Balabatim said to him, hey, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi decreed a fast and it rained. So how come it didn't work for you? So Amr lahu ha'ana ha'bar livoi. So he said back to them, because he's one person and I'm another person. What do you want from me? Obviously, he has more Zechus than me. I get this all the time. Amrulei tanisi v'nichavein daitin efshir the tavrei tzibura libayu da'asi mitrab. So they said to him, you know what? If it didn't happen in your Zechus, maybe if we collectively as a tzibur daven with intensity, maybe we'll break our hearts over this, and then Hashem will let it rain. So bon rachami v'lo asi mitra. So they davened, the tzibur davened, and it didn't rain. Amr lahu nicha lahu sheyavam matar bishvileinu. So then Rabbi Chama says, how would you like it if not in your Zechus and not in my Zechus, but in our collective Zechus, both of the Tzibur and of the Mara Da'asra, if we daven together? How about that? Did you ever think of that? Let's try that. Maybe our collective merits will let it rain. So Amru Leihain, okay, fine, let's try it. So Amar Rakia, Kasi Panayach. So he calls out and he says, sky, cover your face. In other words, fill with clouds. Lo Ichsi. So the sky did not fill with clouds. So Amar Kama Azin Pnei Rakia. He said, how chutzpahdik this sky is. And then finally, Ichsi, what's the girsa over here? So he says, Ichsi be'iva, finally it filled with clouds, va'asa mitra, and then it rained. Because of the Zechus, not of the tzibur alone, not of the Rav alone, but of the collective, the two of them together. Levi gozer Taanis v'lo asa mitra. Levi decreed a fast and it didn't rain. Amar lofan of Ribono Shalom, Alisa v'yashafta b'maram v'enata merachem al bonecha. So Levi says, almost like as a challenge, throwing down the gauntlet before God. He says, God, you must have gone up to heaven and you no longer care about your children. So asa mitra v'itla. So Hashem made it rain, but Levi also became handicapped as a result, because he spoke in a chutzpahdik fashion to Hashem. So Amar Rabbi Lazar la'olam al yatiach adam dvarim klapei mala shrei adam gadol hitiach dvarim klapei mala v'itla umano Levi. You see from this story that a person should not throw down the gauntlet before Hashem, because you see a great person did so, and even though his prayers were answered, but nevertheless he suffered for it. He became a cripple, and that's Levi. So frek the Gemara v'hagarma Levi halevi achvikida kamei the Rebbe v'itla. So the Gemara says, you're telling me that that's the reason why he became crippled? We know that was it for another reason. The Gemara in Sukkah had said that in the discussion of the dancing that took place and the acrobatics that took place in the Simchas Beis HaShoev over Sukkos, the Levium used to do a certain kind of bowing over, where they would, from a standing position, fall to the floor on their thumbs, and I guess push themselves up with their thumbs to stand up without ever any part of their body touching the floor. This required tremendous agility, and Levi tried to demonstrate it in front of his Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, and he became handicapped as a result. Either he dislocated something or he got a hernia. I mean, you can imagine how, that this is not something you'd want to try unless you've been training for it for quite some time.
Don't do this at home.
Don't do this at home. So anyway, so the Gemara says, so how can you tell me it was because of his prayers? It seems that it was because he did something that caused him to become handicapped. So the Gemara says, Hava Hagarmale. The answer is, both stories combine together to tell you why Levi became a cripple. In other words, if he would have had proper Zechus, then if he would have tried to demonstrate in front of Rebbe, nothing would have happened to him. But because he opened himself up to divine criticism, because he spoke impetuously to Hashem, so that's why he became crippled when he tried to demonstrate the acrobatics.
What's the difference between this and Choni, where he also asked very strongly?
It's a good question. Obviously, Choni was like a ben bias, like the Mishnah had said. He was like a household member. Levi didn't have that level, didn't reach to that level apparently. Rabbi Chia bar Luliani shaminu lahanach anani tekamri nesi v'nisvei maya ba'amonu moav. Rabbi Chia, also a great tzaddik, he once hears the clouds schmoozing with each other, and he hears the clouds that are overhead saying, come, let's go to Ammon and Moav and pour our rain down there. Amr lafan of Ribono Shalom kishenasata Torah la'amcha Yisrael chazarta al kol umos ha'olam v'lo kiblua va'achshav atanosin lahem matar. Hashem, you offered the Torah to every nation, and no one wanted it except us. Now the clouds are traveling around, and you're going to let them travel to another nation? You're going to give them rain? So shadu hacha, shajuhu aduchtayu. So send them over here. And that's exactly what happened, that Hashem sent the clouds back, and they came back to Eretz Yisrael. Darash Rabbi Chia bar Luliani, Mai dirsiv tzadikat amar yifrach keres balavanon yiskeh. So the same Rabbi Chia expounded as follows. What does the pasuk in Tehillim mean that we say every Friday night? That tzaddik shall grow like the date palm and flourish like the cedar of Lebanon. Im nemar tamar lama nemar erez v'nemar erez lama nemar tamar. Why do you need both examples of both a date palm and a cedar tree? So the Gemara answers, Ilo nemar tamar v'lo nemar erez, hayisi omer ma tamar ein gizo machlif af tzaddik chas v'sholom ein gizo machlif lekach nemar erez. The answer is like this. If the pasuk would have just said a date palm, a tzaddik is like a date palm, well, when you cut the trunk of a date palm, it doesn't grow back. If you leave just a stump, the palm tree doesn't grow back. And therefore you would have thought that so too a tzaddik, once he's dead, there's no memory of him ever, there's nothing that grows back. So ilo nemar erez v'lo nemar tamar. Yisi omer ma erez eno seperos avtzadik chas v'sholom eno seperos l'kach nemar tamar v'nemar erez. So the Gemara, and if it would have only talked about a cedar, well, a cedar is not fruit bearing. So you would have thought that a tzaddik doesn't bear fruit for all of his efforts in the Olam Ha'emes. And therefore Hashem has to, in the pasuk, David HaMelech had to say both he's like a tamar, in that he bears fruit, and he's like an erez, that if you chop him down, from the stump will continue growing a new tree. So now the Gemara says, Ve'erez gizo machlif, you mean to tell me that when you chop down a cedar tree, it'll grow back again? Ve'hatanya, that, but didn't we learn in the Brisa, halokeach ilan mechaver lakots, that if you purchase a tree from a friend, and the purpose of purchasing the tree is for its wood, and you're going to be chopping down the tree. So magbiho min akarka tefach v'kotzeitz bistan hashikma shnei tfachim v'besulas hashikma shlosha tfachim v'kanemu v'gafanim min apekaku l'mayla v'dekalamu v'arazim chofer lamatu umashrish lefi she'en gizo machlif. So the Brisa says as follows, that when you buy a standard tree, then you have to make sure, and I'm not sure what the standard tree is at the time that the Gemara is addressing, but you have to leave a stump of 1 tefach above the ground to give it an opportunity to grow back. If you're dealing with a sycamore, a dana shikma usually means a sycamore, then you have to leave 2 tefachim for it to grow back. If you're dealing with another type of sycamore, you have to leave 3 tefachim. If you're dealing with bamboo and with vines, you have to only cut up to the knob, where there's a knob in the vine, you have to leave the knob there. And with palm trees and with cedar trees, you're allowed to completely uproot it. And the reason is because if you cut down the trunk and leave a stump, it's never going to grow back. So the Gemara says, you see here that cedar trees do not grow back. It's not gizo machlif. Once you chop it down, it doesn't grow back. So the Gemara answers, Hacha b'mayaskinun b'shar minei arozim k'derabba barhuna. The answer is that there are multiple species of cedar, and we're talking about the species of cedar, the cedar of Lebanon, that if you chop it down, it will grow back. The Amar Rabba Barhuna asar minei arozim hein shenamar etein bamidbar ereshita v'hadas v'goymer. As the pasuk in Yeshaya says, that in the desert there will be an erez of cedar, and he goes on to enumerate the various different species of cedar that exist. So one species of cedar is what the Bryce is talking about. It's not gizo machlif. It doesn't grow back when you chop it down. And the other type of tree does. Tanu Rabbanan, Maisa b'Rebbe Eliezer shegazar shalosh esrei ta'anios al hatzibur v'lo yardu geshamim. That the story goes that Rabbi Eliezer ben Horkinus decreed 13 fasts, meaning, the multiple fast days, and it didn't help. Nothing, it wasn't raining. As they're leaving on the final fast, Rabbi Eliezer notes that the people really haven't poured out every last drop, and he wants to get out that very last drop of intensity of prayer from them, in the hopes that their final act of desperation will bring the rain. So he says, don't forget to dig your graves. So go kol ha'am bebechiya v'yardu geshamim. And at that moment that everyone let out that last desperate sob, and it was that last most desperate sob that finally brought the rain. Shuv ma'isa b'Rebbe Eliezer sheyorad lifnei hateva v'omer esrim v'arba brachos v'lo nana. Another story, the same Rabbi Eliezer is leading the tzibur on the fast day, and he's leading them with the 24 blessings of the Shemona Esrei, and nothing's happening. Yorad Rabbi Akiva achra ve'omer avinu malkeinu ein lanu melech ela ata avinu malkeinu l'mancha rachem aleinu v'yardu gesham. But then Rabbi Akiva gets up after him, and he adds the postscript to those prayers, and he says, the 2 avinu malkeinus, we have only one king, and that's you, and avinu malkeinu, for your sake, have mercy upon us. And immediately it starts to rain. Havu miranani rabbanan. So the rabbis, witnessing that Rabbi Eliezer's prayer has no efficacy, and Rabbi Akiva's does, they think that Rabbi Akiva must be Rabbi Eliezer's superior. So Yatsa Sabas Kol Va'amra. So a heavenly voice emanates and says, Lo mipnei shezeh gadol mizeh, ela shezeh mavir al midosa v'zeh eino mavir al midosa. No, it's not that one is greater than the other, but rather the difference between Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Eliezer is that Rabbi Akiva is foregoing with his honor, and Rabbi Eliezer is not. Rabbi Eliezer insists on the kavod, and Rabbi Akiva is very, very humble and meek, and does not worry about his kavod. So my question to you is, in analyzing this story, which is a very famous story from the Gemara, it's why we say Avinu Malkeinu during Aseres Yemei Tshuva, isn't the very fact that Rabbi Akiva is Mavir al Midosav, isn't that what makes him greater than Rabbi Eliezer? How can the Baskol in the same breath say that Rabbi Akiva is not greater than Rabbi Eliezer, and yet then say that the difference between the two is that Rabbi Akiva is Mavir al Midosav and Rabbi Eliezer is not?
Maybe the Baskol is referring to level of learning only.
Is level of learning the way that you give merit Zechus for rain? I understand your answer, but I'm saying it's difficult to understand. Perhaps it has to do with level of closeness to the Ribono Shel Olam, and one is Ben Adam Lachavero, one is Ben Adam Lamakom, but I'm just saying you have to work it out. You have to work out the difference. Tana Rabbana, Admasa Yehu HaGeshamim Yordim VaHatzibur Poskim Mita'anesam. So now the Brisa tells us that at what point, after we've been fasting, can we say, you know what, it's rained enough, the fast is over? In other words, how much rain has to fall before we know that Hashem is blessing us? Kimalo berach hamachreisha divrei Reb Meir. So Reb Meir says, if the rain penetrates so that the soil is moist down to the depth of the blade of the plow, which is, I guess, an inch or two deep, so then that's enough, you know that the drought is over. V'chachamim omrim b'chareva tefach b'beinonis tfachayim ba'avuda shlosher tfachim. The Chachamim say it depends. If you're dealing with exceptionally arid soil, so then as long as the moisture penetrates one tefach to the topsoil, then that's a sign the drought is over. If it's average soil, it has to penetrate 2 tefachim, and if it's aerated, plowed soil, then it has to penetrate 3 tefachim. Tanya Reb Shimon ben Elazar Omer, Ein lecha tefach milamala she'ein tahom yotze likraso shlosha tefachim. All of the following Gemara is very mysterious, it's very cryptic, but we'll learn it, we'll try and explain it as best as we can. Reb Shimon ben Elazar says that any time a tefach of rainfall comes from above, there is always water that comes from the depths to come and greet the water from above. In other words, what the Gemara is trying to demonstrate is that when Hashem divided between the upper waters and the lower waters, that is a paradigm for what happens every time it rains. When it rains, it's a sign that the upper waters and the lower waters are reconciling in some way. So whenever there's rainfall from above, there's also rain from subterraneous sources that come up to greet the rainfall that comes from above. And when one tefach of rain comes from above, 3 tefachim of moisture seep into the soil from below as well. That's what it means. Now, how you explain that, I don't know.
You can't look at this just in the sense of that water rises up from the seas and lakes. And that
well, of course, Reb David, that's how you and I would normally understand it, right?
Not to 3.
Right.
It doesn't rise more than it's given.
Huh?
One comes down from the top, doesn't rise 3 from the bottom.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how it works. I don't know how it works, and I don't know what the Gemara exactly is trying to explain to us. There's something much deeper here, obviously. So now the Gemara says, V'hatanya tfachayim. But there's a brisa that says not 3 tfachim from the depths, but only 2 tfachim. Lo kasha kan ba'avuda kan b'she'ena avuda. The answer is, when the soil is aerated and it only goes down a tefach deep, that's a sign of limited rainfall. And that's why only 2 tfachim come up from the depths. But when it's regular soil and it penetrates a tefach deep, that's a sign of greater rainfall, and therefore you have more rain, more water rather, that comes from the depths. Amar Rabbi Lazar, Kishemenaschen es hamayim b'chag, tahom lo omer lechavero iba meimecha, kol shnei reyem ani shomea. Rabbi Lazar says that when they do the nisuch hamayim, the water libation on the simchas, on Sukkos, so then the waters of the tahom, each one says to its friend, so flow your waters. Both depths say to each other, flow your waters, because I hear 2 friends that are being poured up above. And the 2 friends, Rashi says, are the nisuch hayayin and the nisuch hamayim, the pouring of the wine and the pouring of the water. Shenamar, as the pasuk says in Tehillim, tahom el tahom korei, lekol tzinorecha kol mishparecha begalecha alai avaru. As it says that the one depth calls out to the other depth, and it says, I hear the sound of the fluid flowing down the pipes, and therefore all of your waves will flow over me. Amar Rabba lididi chazi lihai ridja dami liigla. I saw the angel of rainfall, or the angel of water, and he has the appearance of a fatted calf. Upirsa sivavase v'kaima bein tahoma tata'a letahoma ila'a. Its lips are parted, and it stands between the upper tahom and the lower tahom, the upper depth and the lower depth. And letahoma ila'a omar lechashor memecha, to the upper depth, which sounds like it's referring to the upper rakia where the water is stored up above. He's saying chashor memecha, pour down your water. And letahoma tata amar lai iba memecha, to the lower depth, which was referring to subterraneous water, he's saying flow forth your water upwards. Shenamar hanitzanim neru ba'aretz. The pasuk says, this is in Shir Hashirim, the sprouts are seen in the land. Eis hazomir higi, it's time for pruning. The kol hator nishma bi'artzeinu, and the sound of the tor is heard in our land. Normally the word tor means dove, but the Gemara is explaining it now as tor as shor, and in Aramaic, which means the sound of the bull or the fatted calf is heard, which is a reference to the angel who was calling forth to the waters to give to saturate the soil. Okay, the Mishnah had said that if people were fasting and it rained before sunrise, so then you can stop fasting. You don't have to fast because of the prayers were answered even before the day began. Tana Rabbana, now the Bryce elaborates, Reb Meir is of the opinion that the cutoff is sunrise. If it rains before sunrise, you don't have to fast. If it only starts raining after sunrise, you have to finish the fast. Reb Yehuda Omer Kodem Chatzos Lo Yashlimu Lachar Chatzos Yashlimu. Reb Yehuda, who we also had seen in our Mishnah, says, no, the cutoff time is noon. If it starts raining before noon, you don't have to finish the fast. If it only starts raining after noon, then you have to complete the fast. Rabbi Yossi Omer, and this is we hadn't seen yet, Kodem Tesha Oslo Yashlimu Lachar Tesha Os Yashlimu Shekein Masinu Ba'achav Melech Yisrael Shehisana Mitesha Sho Sulamayla. He says the cutoff time is 9 hours into the day, like 3 p.m. Right? He says if it rains before then, you don't have to finish, but if it only rains after 3 p.m., then you do have to continue the fast. He says because we see that Achav began fasting only at Teshos. He got word from Eliyahu Hanavi that God was going to bring a famine, a drought, and he began fasting immediately, but it was already the afternoon. So you see that fast has efficacy, and therefore that's the most that a person. No one's going to start a fast after Teshos, but at Teshos you could say I'm going to start fasting, and so therefore Shenamar Haraisa Ki Nichna Achav, like God says, if you've seen that even Achav the wicked has humbled himself before me. So anyway, the point of the Gemara is that sometimes a king will not begin eating until 3 in the afternoon because he wakes up late and he has affairs of state to take care of. But the point is that once it's already after 3 in the afternoon. There's no such thing as instituting a fast. So if it rains before 3, so then you can break your fast, right? But once it's already after 3, there's no point in saying, well, we fasted this long. You might as well finish the fast. There's no significance anymore to that point afterwards in the day. Reb Yehuda Nasiya Gazer Taanis of Yardu Lahem Geshamim Lachar Hanetz Achama Savar Lashlaminu. So the Gemara now says that Reb Yehuda Nasiya decreed a fast, and it started to rain after sunrise, and he figured, well, I'll go like Reb Meir, let's finish the fast. So Amarle Rebbe Ami Kodem Chatzos Ve'achar Chatzos Shanin. And Rebbe Ami says no, you should paskin like Rebbe Yehuda, who says the cutoff is noon, and therefore let people eat. Shmuel Hakatan Gazer Tanes of the Yardulahem Geshamim Kodem Hanetz Achama Kisvur Ma'am Lomar Shavacha Shal Tziborhu. Shmuel Hakatan once decreed a fast, and it started raining even before sunrise. The community, the Jewish community, were feeling prideful and started patting themselves on the back. It must be we have a lot of Zechus. So Amr Lahem Emshalachem Bashal Lamahadavar Daima. So Shmuel Hakatan put them in check, and he said, you know what this is like. Don't be so happy. It's like Le'evet Shemavakesh Pras Meirabo Amr Lahem Tunulo Va'al Eshma Kola. A man has a servant who is a big kvetch, and he's always kvetching to him about this and that. So finally the Eved comes to him and says, you know what, I would love to have this particular gift. The king says to him, you know what, I don't want to even listen to his petition, just give it to him, I'm tired of his kvetching. So that's why Hashem brought you the rain, not because he loves you so much, because he's tired of your nagging. Shuv Shmuel Hakatan Gazer Taanis of Yordulhem Geshamim Lachar Shkia Sachama Kisvurm Ham Lomer Shvacha Shel Tziborhu. Another time Shmuel Hakatan decreed a fast, and after the day of fasting, after sunset, immediately after the fast, it began to rain. So people felt prideful. They said, "Oh, you see, our fasting was helpful." So Amar Lehem Shmuel lo shevach shel tzibur ela em shalachem mashal ma'adavar doime. He says to him, "Don't think it's such a wonderful shevach that you're so wonderful, such wonderful people. You know what this is like? Le'eved shemavakish pras meirabo v'armalei mamtina lo ad sheyismak make v'yitzdayer ve'achar kach tenulo." So he says, no. He says, this is like a master who knows that his servant is asking for something, and he says, no, I want him to squirm first. Let him squirm and feel the pain of not having it, and finally, when he can't take it anymore, then you can give it to him. So obviously, this master is not so in love with his servant, because otherwise he would have given it to him right away. So therefore, you should know, Tzibra, that's not Hashem is so happy with you. He wanted, obviously, he wanted to wait until you were desperate. So now the Gemara says, so since Shmuel HaKatan is so critical of his community, at what point would he acknowledge that, yes, the community has the Zechus? The answer is, Amar Mashiv Aruach V'Noshav Zika, Amar Morad HaGeshem V'Asa Mitra. If it came to the point where the Shliach Tzibur said the words Mashiv Aruach, and all of a sudden, whoosh, the wind would blow, and Morad HaGeshem, and whoosh, it would start to rain. If that were to happen, then even Shmuel HaKatan would agree, then that must be a very virtuous congregation. We'll hold it here for today. Have a wonderful day.